What's up, guys? Brian here. I wanted to make a video about different opportunities in the United States and around the world. I don't want you guys turning to little tweak jobs because, yeah, sometimes there is a lot of negativity and things kind of mount up. And I've made videos, even 7-8 months ago, calling out that, hey, the economy's way worse than we think. We're going to have to brace for impact. It's not looking good for the housing market, so on and so forth. All that's true, and you need to know that information to take action, but there's tons and tons and tons of opportunity still that presents itself. So one thing that I'll say, and geographically, I would say the Midwest, the thing that the Midwest has that a lot of other areas of the country don't have is they have both agriculture and manufacturing. And this is very important because there is a lot of money in farming, and there is a lot of money also in the harvesting of things that you wouldn't even necessarily think of. For instance, my parents have quite a bit of wooded land, and it was one of the things that when they originally bought the land, they weren't necessarily thinking that, okay, we're going to harvest the trees and these walnut trees and these various different trees are going to go for this much and everything like that. But at different times, they've had basically people come through and they've selected different trees and they've harvested some of those trees like a crop. Now that might be every kind of 15 years or more that you're going to get that and everything, but that's one opportunity that they necessarily weren't thinking of when they bought the woods. They just wanted to have wooded land, and they wanted their house to be back in the woods. It was more of a lifestyle choice than a sort of a crop choice or anything like that. Now, also, another thing I notice in the Midwest is you get some of this farmland, actually, it does have oil underneath it. And whether that's kind of between the limestone or underneath the limestone, you will see stripper wells going in. I've seen more of those going in, and those are the iconic kind of pump wells that you see pumping oil. You don't see a ton of them around here, but lately I've seen more and more of those going in. Now, the thing that you don't see a lot of times is there's electricity running to them. So it has to overcome the cost of electricity, and kind of in this area, you're talking 10 cents a kilowatt hour power, which is probably around the average in the US, maybe a little bit lower. It's not super low like it is out in Oregon or Washington where there's hydroelectric power, and you might be able to get 6 cents kilowatt hour power, about 10 cents kilowatt hour power. And the pumps aren't going to produce that much. They're going to, from my understanding, they're going to produce, maybe a couple barrels a day, and they might let it accumulate and not have the pump running, and then pump out as it kind of seeps in and stuff over time and stuff like that. But you will see that in some of these farms. So not only are they growing corn or soybeans or other crops, they're also potentially have the ability to get some oil. So those are some opportunities that might be out there that maybe you haven't even thought of, kind of thing, that you could have maybe a company come in that already has the equipment and do some exploratory drilling to see if there is oil, if you have farmland in the Midwest. And obviously there's other areas of the country where it has been more fruitful for the oil and stuff like that, out in New Mexico or Kansas, Texas obviously, and California, various different places. So that could be some sort of business that you could get involved in, of approaching farmers and doing exploratory wells. Another thing with vehicles, I would say there's this phantom inventory out there, and since interest rates are so high, people can't afford to get these high interest, auto loans and these, high payments per month and stuff like that. There's a lot of phantom inventory out there throughout the Midwest and all over the United States that cars maybe have been set to the side. And they might be cars that are 15, 20 years old, but they might be models that are actually like pretty hardy, that actually, are very dependable with very replaceable parts and stuff like that. And it could have been something small that went out on the car. It could have been a fuel pump. It could have been, some other small kind of situation. It could have been a power steering issue that they set it to the side. They thought they were going to get around to it, and then they didn't. And you might be able to buy up a bunch of those vehicles on the cheap and get them on the road again and sell them for all cash. I know there's a lot of hustlers out there. They're doing that on maybe a Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, 5 Mile, OfferUp, all those kind of apps like that. So that is one opportunity. Some people might say, well, I don't want to work on cars, Well, or you don't want to do this other kind of manualized stuff. But the fact of the matter is, it's like you can have an endless money printing machine if you have money. And I've detailed this to a lot of my crypto followers, obviously. 20% APR on the HIVE blockchain. And there's other DeFi opportunities that can even pay you more than that, and you're essentially printing money. Now, one thing that was brought up in a blog post, actually, that was very interesting, the guy said is like, well, with the HIVE blockchain having this 20% interest, you could essentially create a crowdfunding platform that would be kind of like a Kickstarter kind of situation where people invest money into it, and then you take that money and you're earning the 20% return. And then if certain dates they don't necessarily like the progress of the project or they need the money out, you could give them back the initial investment, but you keep the reward of this additional 20% to keep the project flowing. So the well doesn't run dry as quickly. And with the advent of AI, or the progression of AI, you have a lot more ability to kind of utilize less developers. The development cost goes down to get the project kind of closer to where it needs to be and stuff like that. So around some of these blockchains, you'd be pretty impressed. It's a complete ecosystem. And then also you can build games on these blockchains. I made a previous video talking about that basically Wax is the #1 gaming blockchain, and Polygon is kind of came into the #2 spot. Hive is #3, and the BNB Binance Smart Chain is in the 4th position. So there's a lot of opportunities there. Now that might be a lot to chew, to jump in and stuff like that. But with the advent of the progression of AI, that makes that a lot more realistic. Also, real estate in the Midwest. I think that a lot of areas, it's played out. It's obviously a lot of the stuff ends up being cyclical in nature, and you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of these trades, whether it be stock market, crypto, real estate, all that kind of stuff like that. So you got to pick and choose your battles. I would say real estate in the Midwest, you could try to revive some of these small towns. You say, well, who's going to move there? But you position it in between where manufacturing and stuff is going in, and there's more kind of maybe distribution and manufacturing. Because in some of these Midwest areas and stuff, it is centrally located to the country to distribute goods more easily. So if you're positioned in those places, and the way kind of housing is right now, people are still, they're gravitating. What's happening in the Midwest is a lot of the smaller towns, people are kind of gravitating away from them. But again, small is all relative. Are we talking about 1,000 person town? Are we talking an 8,000 person town? Are we talking a 50,000 person town? And maybe you kind of like set your criteria to where it's like you're not going to deal with a town that's under 20,000, for instance, and it has to meet certain criteria and has to have a certain availability of money. And then in certain economic conditions, you can sit there and say, well, okay, this is a play because I could soak up 3 or 4 of these properties for under what I would be able to get a property out in Arizona or out in California or out in Dallas for, and then rehab those and kind of bring up the value of the whole kind of street or the whole neighborhood. And right now there's just low inventory in some of these areas in the Midwest for various different reasons. So that is one area to look. If you're a real estate investor and you feel like, hey, it's played out, I really can't do my fix and flips. A lot of times people head east. They'll head east or head to the Midwest, where the prices are relatively low. Another video that I saw that was very interesting is there's actually lower amounts of people living kind of like you know, obviously in Louisiana, but then like across in Alabama, and then over in the panhandle of Florida, like in the Pensacola area and stuff like that. And there could be towns over there in the panhandle of Florida, for instance, that are close to the beach, somewhat close to the shore, but not maybe in hurricane disaster, kind of like potentially right in the way. Obviously there always is a risk there, but that is tillable land, that is farmable, and that the values are fairly low, and there is an equitable ability to sort of take over a town, or kind of like improve the town, and there's enough money, or there's enough things happening there, and that it's kind of a growing area, or more people are kind of flocking there, because some of these places have been totally played out, obviously, where the values have went way up, whether it be in Miami or Fort Myers or Boca Raton or Fort Lauderdale. These kind of areas have really kind of popped off, and it's unaffordable for the people who live there currently, and they might not necessarily want to make the complete jump away, or people up in the Midwest maybe do still want to get out of the cold, but it's too much of a sticker shock to move to Miami. So that is, real estate wise, that is like one opportunity. Now, I would say another opportunity, you know, as well, is kind of from the art front of things, is doing a lot of like really kind of getting good at the AI related stuff, getting good at Mid-Journey, using stuff like GPT, and keeping up with that stuff, the AI front, to either crank out copyright for like different products or something like that, or blog posts, or these YouTube channels that you're seeing that are sort of these more advanced kind of AI, and they're basically taking stock footage that's like, you know, it might be kind of like drone footage, various other footage like that, and then with a combination of that and some other things, like you can do these, there's these AI tools that you can actually talk into, and it learns your voice, and then you can basically have GPT generate a script, or you type up a script, and you can have this thing just voice over for you, which is crazy, and it's pretty good. And then you put the stock footage together, and then once you have it sort of rolling, maybe you do hire, you know, basically these virtual assistants essentially do the same thing in a place where it costs less to live, like whether that be, you know, in Bangladesh, or that be a you know, Thailand or Philippines or something like that, where the cost of living is less, and you can really find some great workers. I had an artist that was in Sri Lanka doing some graphics for me at one point. Kind of lost my gimbal here. I'm in the turn, guys. I'm keeping up with the video. So yeah, the power in the gimbal went dead. So, but what I'm saying is that while I don't necessarily, like, I have mixed feelings about those kind of like those automated YouTube channels, but they've gotten better and better, and I've kind of like even tripped across some that were edited well and done well, and I was just kind of like, I really kind of got caught up into it. I was like, wait a minute, like, is this AI generated, or is this a real person's voice? And I wasn't quite sure it got that good. I was not sure. So it is something to play with, and it is an opportunity that's going to continue to improve, and they keep coming out with more iterations of this and more tools. There's also a new tool, and I forget exactly what AI tool, what the name of it was, but basically it can summarize YouTube videos. And one thing I do with YouTube videos, and I certainly recommend you guys do this even in my videos, is put it on 1.5x or put it on 2x time. I mean, I listen to everybody in squirrel mode. It's like, you know, so it just speeds up your learning so much more. You're listening to stuff like twice the rate. You're coming up with ideas at twice the rate, and you know, you're just becoming more efficient. And then you're becoming AI assisted. You're listening to stuff at double the speed. You're AI assisted. You have to become a superhuman. This is an ultra competitive world. There are opportunities out there, and I don't want you guys kind of just buckling down, just tweaking out, just because of the economic situation kind of at hand. So hunker down, do what you can do, look for opportunities because they're always there, and take this opportunity to, basically elevate yourself coming out of this thing, because who can elevate themselves coming out of this can set themselves up for the next decade, the next 20 years, and for a lifetime. So anyway, guys, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about some of the ideas? Any other ideas that you guys have that you can share in the comment section below? Follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steam, and Twitter, Hive, DTube, everywhere. See you guys.